who are the guides? Where do they come from? How long have they existed? Where did their teachings come from?
There's one note playing in the entire universe that is in manifestation as all things. So this one note, which you can call God, sometimes they call it the Word, that one note is being played, and everything we see is an articulation or manifestation of that note. Alignment is vibrational, of course. The acclimation to the upper room is a process. We've been really taught in the low octave, and all of the beliefs in separation that we hold and we adhere to are really just our own creations. And that's what they say happens from the upper room as you become the conduit.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to reach the upper room, sing at a higher octave, or simply reinvent yourself into the light, then do we have the Kingdom Show for you. Today I'll be talking with my all-time favorite spiritual author, Paul Selig, about his latest channeled work, The Kingdom. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about re-knowing, reinvention, and reaching the upper room, or the kingdom as his guides call it, and the freedom that's already here. So welcome back to the show, Paul. Are you ready to shine?
I'm ready to shine. Thank you, Michael.
Woohoo! All right. I've asked, the gloom and doom questions of the past. We're not going to go there as a starting question. But what I will ask is, Paul, is humanity at a crossroads?
Yes. I've been hearing this for a long time, though. But I also hear that humanity is chosen, that humanity as a collective has chosen the higher. And the process of getting there means sort of disentangling ourselves from all of the fear and all of the sort of division that we've been operating through. So the guides have titled chapters of their books, Humanity at a Crossroads. I mean, they've been on this for a couple of years. And really from the very first book, which was I Am the Word, and they said humanity is a time of reckoning. And that was about 10, 11 years ago. And they said a reckoning is a facing of oneself and all of one's creations. And that's what we're engaging in now at the level of the individual, but also at the level of the collective. This is collective change we're witnessing and party to. It's not just about us and me and how I think things should be. It's about a real wave of change. And I'm being told, you can ride the crest of the wave or get sort of, pummeled by it, but still the wave is there. And we're all party to this. So yes, we're at the crossroads.
It's interesting. I have been to almost this isn't a badge of pride or anything, but because I'm so busy on the show, I go to almost no exterior events of other authors.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to an event of yours. I think that is it. And the question just kept coming up, which is, is if everything is going to be falling apart, is this end times? Is this the end of this? All of these things. And it's interesting because the guides alluded to something coming. Do you feel that's what we're experiencing right now?
I do, yeah. I mean, I do. They said it in a live stream. I don't remember exactly what they said. It was probably a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And they said, be prepared, massive change. Everything's about to be sort of turned on its head. And I just said, please, God, let me not be in New York City and let me be someplace pretty. And that's really what I
God.
got.
All right. So tell, for those who don't know the story, what happened?
Oh, I was channeling in Costa Rica. I do an annual, retreat there. And I got there, and about 4 days into the retreat, New York went on lockdown. And it was clear that I wasn't going to go back to New York. And I had a friend who was staying on Maui who found me a tiny house to stay in and stocked the fridge from Costco. And the next thing I knew, I was on a plane to Maui, where I had never been, to ride out the storm. I figured I'd be in, Hawaii for a few weeks most. And go back. I had just rented like my dream apartment in Manhattan. I actually never spent a night there in the dream apartment. I never went back. I've not been back. I ended up falling in love with this place and finding community, which I'm very grateful for. And now have a house in the rainforest, and I don't even drive. So this is really a leap of faith. I can't get to anything right now, but I'm very happy.
So one last question on this, and it is in a sense your life fell apart, but you allowed and it fell together at a higher
Yeah,
octave.
yeah, it really did. It's what the guides have been talking about. I got out of my own way enough to receive
Yeah.
and stop dictating what the terms of my receiving should be and look like. This is the last place I would have chosen in my monkey mind. I went to Hawaii once years ago on a blind date. I said I would never come back. And, here I am.
Did your puppy make it out?
She did actually. She came out in October. She was shipped to Maui. They're very strict here because there's no rabies on Maui, so you have to have all these vaccines and tests. And she's very, very, very happy. She was living in a studio apartment for 10 months with a sitter during quarantine, and now she has a lawn to play in. So we're both happy.
Woohoo! All right.
Woohoo.
Went through, wow, I think I just got a woohoo out of Paul. Oh my God.
A whispered woohoo.
Going through the kingdom, am I making things up? Or did I feel a sense of urgency from the guides?
I don't know. I didn't feel the sense of urgency when it was being dictated. It was, this book was dictated in all the books are done live in front of audiences. I can't do it by myself. And because I wasn't traveling and having live events, some of them were done in live streams, and I convened a small group on Zoom to be the listeners for the channelings and to ask questions of the guides. I wasn't aware of the urgency, but I expect it was there. And if you picked up on it, it's probably there. I don't really read the books. It's hard. It's hard enough to speak them into being, and then I finally read them when I have to proof the manuscript because there's no editing. This is just what the guide said. That's what the book is. And then when I do the audiobook is when I really hear it. And I wasn't hearing the urgency in the audiobook, but they've really pretty much said, this is how I understand it. They said, we've been living upside down for so long, we don't even know that we're upside down. They use the image, maybe it's in this book or maybe it was in a recent lecture of being in a ship that has capsized.
This was the ship.
And yeah, so we're living in the ship. We've been underwater this whole time, and the ship is being righted. You don't know you're not in this other reality until it happens. And I understand that that's what's happening now. And the opportunity for it is there, but this is done through collective choice and also an alignment of the individual will. We have to choose it. When I understand that the collective has chosen, which is what they've been saying, and they were kind of happy about that, they say, sort of the group soul of humanity has decided that they can't go on as they have. So we collectively are moving beyond fear as the basis for our learning and seeking to justify fear, in the ways that we've been instructed to. And they make a real distinction between fear and prudence. Prudence they're in favor of. Prudence says, if you're walking, if you want to go ice skating and there's a sign saying thin ice, probably best not to skate. You don't have to be frightened of the ice, but you don't have to be foolhardy either. Fear is I'm never going to skate because I might fall through the ice one day, and nobody should skate because somebody one day could fall through the ice.
But it is leaning in that choice. I'm going to go into the water, but I'm going to go into the water from a place of love rather than a place of fear. So let's go there. Collective, you're hearing, we're making it through. We've made this choice. I had on Dr. Stephen Greer a couple of days ago. Magnificent, talking about, we'll call them enlightened beings from other galaxies that are saying that you will make it through this time. It's challenging, it's tenuous, but you'll make it through.
Yeah.
What is the individual choice, though, that the guides are saying you get to make right now?
I'd have to ask them. I don't recall what they said in the book. I don't know if I can today, but if I channel on your show, I've done it before. The only individual choice they're saying is that I can be here in a new way. I mean, I may know myself in a new way without ascribing to the edicts of history. And the choices made for, and the choices made for me by others. The idea of who you are, the idea of who you are, the identity you've held, and the identity you've held individually and collectively is what is being altered through these times, is what is being altered through these times. Upward. The trajectory of humanity is upward, but you do not get to lift, but you do not get to lift unless you encounter creations, unless you encounter your creations. You don't get to bypass. You don't get to bypass, pretend it's all fine. Pretend it's all fine. You get to witness what has been created. You get to witness what has been created as you move beyond it and through it, as you move beyond it and through it. And that is where you sit today. And that is where you sit today, individually and collectively, period. Missing, period.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, guides. How do we encounter our creations while choosing the upper room? And I mean in this situation of not going to a fear-based place where we simply affirm our creations.
Well, I mean, let me see if I can answer this. I mean, the first thing I want to say is one of the things the guides say is, if you have a body buried in the basement, eventually it's going to stink up the whole house.
Yeah.
And what we're dealing with right now is a process of exhumation, of having to see what we've created in order to be accountable for it. I think the mistake people make is that something gets exhumed and then you want to blame it or hate it or damn it. And the guides say, what you damn damns you back. What you put in darkness or who you put in darkness calls you to that darkness. And so, people use this process in times, I think, to sort of support hatred and support division. And I think the opportunity here is to understand that nothing gets healed until it's brought to the light. Nothing gets re-seen until it is first seen. And the process of re-articulation, which is what the guides are speaking to, is a process of re-knowing the self and re-seeing all things. And re-seeing all things from a higher level of awareness, which actually moves beyond sort of what they would call the template of fear that we've been so, in agreement to. I mean, the guides have said, it's kind of like, we're born on this plane and somebody already peed in the pool when we got here. And it's just what we're used to. It's what we expect. So they say, there are other ways to learn your lessons, beyond being fearful or being taught by fear. They say fear is a teacher. It's just not the highest one that you can choose.
There is no thing that is not the divine, is there?
Well, no, the guides say God is all things. Now, what we call an atrocity or what we call evil, I hear in pretty much every case, is our own creation. We've been given free will and we can operate that thing. When they first started speaking about this, God is all things, the question was, well, what about fear? Uses fear of God. And they said, yes, even fear is of God, but it doesn't know it. It denies it. And they've lately said fear is really stupid. They say fear doesn't ascend. That's why you can lift beyond it to what they call the upper room or the strata vibration that is available to us, the level of consciousness that we can align to. They said there is no fear there because fear basically is, fear's job, they say, is to replicate itself like a cancer. It eats everything that it encounters. And every choice we make individually and collectively in support of that contributes to the fear as a whole. But again, I don't want to say this without saying that they make this enormous distinction between prudence and fear. I'll say this, and I've said this in other interviews. I'm a gay guy in my late 50s. I lived through the AIDS epidemic when I was in my 20s and 30s, and I watched many, many, many of my friends die, too many to even count. And I learned early on that prudence was going to keep me alive, which was being careful and being thoughtful and being mindful, because at that time, nobody was helping anybody. People were just being left to die and often unburied. I mean, it was a terrible time. And, I'm grateful that I lived through that. But it also sort of seasoned me a little bit. I understand Rama, and I understand, that I don't necessarily think of illness as metaphor. I do have to think of it, though, and all things as potential opportunity for growth. And that's how the guides frame everything, for me at least. They say you really can't be a victim and a master at the same time.
Thank you. And I ride my bicycle around here, which is interesting. When we last spoke, or in the
Mhm.
past, I've been in Colorado, then I was in California, now I'm in an RV traveling around
Yeah.
again,
Hmm.
and complete and total reinvention. When I go out on my bicycle, as a former pro, I am neoned up to the hill with blinky lights like you wouldn't believe, and my 140
Absolutely.
decibel horn just came in last night.
Which is prudence, not fear. Exactly right. I get it.
Exactly. So, all right, let's talk about the title of this is The Kingdom. We're talking about the upper room. We're talking about the kingdom. What exactly is the kingdom?
They've defined it as the awareness of the divine or the inherent divine in all things. So they've said, you can't make anything holy, it already is, but you can deny the divine in anything. There's one note playing
Yes.
in the entire universe that is in manifestation as all things. So, this one note, which you can call God, sometimes they call it the word or the action of the creator, they say, or source, it really doesn't matter what you call it. That one note is being played, and everything we see is an articulation or manifestation of that note. And it's all happening at varying levels of vibration, high and low and in between. So the remembering of the source of all things is coming into an awareness of the kingdom. In their prior books, they've talked a lot about deconstruction of reality, which
Yeah.
is something that I used to struggle with a lot. And I didn't know why they were doing this, but now I understand. Because they say, everything's been named by you or somebody who came before you. And once something is named, it's solidified. It takes on meaning and has value. So the diamond is more valuable than the lump of coal because somebody decided it was. And
Yeah.
then we all go into adherence with this. And so the realization that all things really are this one source energy, sort of in manifestation as all things, is a radical shift. And in some ways, that seems to involve a releasing of what we think we are and also what we think matter is. One of the claims in the books, the prior books, and in this one as well, is the claim, I know what I am in truth. And the claim of what is the claim of manifestation. I know I am an articulation of source or an expression of source in form. The guides have said to us, because you've denied the inherent divinity of your own bodies, you've denied the inherent divinity of everything in form. If the body is not holy, then how can the sea be, or the stars, or, the sky, or the planet? So this is sort of a re-knowing of everything. So the kingdom, if I understand it, is the level of consciousness where this really occurs. They talk about the upper room in this book and in this prior trilogy. It's really the upper room trilogy in my mind, although it's called something other. And the upper room, they say, is the level of consciousness or the octave above the one that we've been used to. So they say we're living in an octave. Our shared reality is an octave. An octave is comprised of notes, high to low and low to high, whatever you want to say. And they say any piece of music or any song can be transposed to be played in a higher octave. And the process they're taking us through is the process of transposition to the upper room. And they say from the upper room, or from this level of vibration, which they've called Christ consciousness, although again, there are names for it in all systems of belief. You don't need to use that one. From that place, you can attend to the kingdom. But I understand that, the upper room is another octave. So probably we've just entered into the foyer of it through these books. I don't think that we've fully expressed there. And that's what they're starting to teach now, full expression, from the upper room, which is a whole other teaching.
Thank you. I've got a gift from my assistant of a harmonica on my desk.
Oh, great.
And it's really fun, and it is at a different octave. And so I
Uh-huh.
have a new octave to play and to start to get comfortable with and to understand. And that sounds like exactly what you're describing.
Absolutely, yeah. And that we have to, become used to this. The acclimation to the upper room is a process. We see, they say, we've been really taught in the low octave, and all of the beliefs in separation that we hold and we adhere to are really just our own creations. We created all this stuff, so we can begin to experience ourselves beyond these things. But in doing so, we have to release our attachment to, what we thought was so damn valuable in the first place, and I think that's the uncomfortability of this teaching. I mean, none of these teachings feel terribly convenient to me. I mean, I kind of wish some days they were teaching, how to get a better condominium or a better body, or, all those things, so that I could, I'd have a different career. But that's not what they teach.
However, if it was on how to have a better condominium or have a better body, you would look around at the fires, you look around at all the challenges, and you would say, none of this makes any damn sense. And now we look at it and say, none of this makes any damn sense, and I get it.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's really been my lesson. The more I have stepped out of the way, and the guides are teaching manifestation in a whole other way now. It's really about the understanding that the divine knows more than my personality structure, and that my needs will be met as I align to that, as I need them. The needs are met as needed, not when I say they should happen in the way that I would want. And I've come to experience that. It's shocking to me. And it's a kind of grace. And I'm not saying that I'm there all the time, but I look at the life I'm beginning to live now, and it's not one I would have chosen, but one that I have to continue to say yes to, and that's what they say happens from the upper room as you become the conduit. You become the receptor. It's a lot about, receiving and allowance more so than demanding and getting and saying, I should have what I want now.
Yeah.
If I got what I thought I should have, I wouldn't be living the life I'm living right now.
If I got what I thought I should have, I'd still probably be running around the world teaching barefoot running. And when I
Yeah,
was knocked out of that world, in a sense, through something that I was in mourning for about 3 years, why did I make this
yeah,
terrible decision? Why, oh, why, oh, why? It wasn't until I was able to let go of that, I said, oh, wait, this is actually a gift.
yeah.
Let's step through that door.
Hmm.
You said,
Yeah,
you said something interesting. You said needs met as needed as we align to them. What
yeah.
does that mean as we align to them?
Alignment is vibrational accord. So they say, I mean, the New Agers might say, well, you created everything, but I think we're participatory to those creations. We're
Yes.
operating in a collective. So, say the water system in a community fails and it's all of a sudden poisonous. I didn't create that, but I'm participatory perhaps to a reality where such things can happen, or an economic structure where people can dump their chemicals in the water because that's what I've been born into. So alignment is the understanding that everything that I see, I am participatory to at a level of consciousness. When I start lifting, what I am participatory to starts to change, and the alignments come in a higher way. So it's really kind of that simple. The guides have said, I may get this wrong, what you shake hands with, you hold. And what you hold, you're in accord to, or vibrational accord. That's it. And if you don't like what you're holding, stop holding it. And then you can receive from the higher, and it's some of it's actually probably that simple. So I don't know if I answered this, but the entirety of the teaching seems to be about alignment and what aspect of self is claiming everything. So the guides have said, there's nothing wrong with the house on the hill. Somebody gets to live there, but why do you want it? And if you want it to be the envy of your neighbors, you're creating in fear. And again, the action of fear is to claim more fear. And all you have to do is look at every choice you've made in your life that was fear-based and see what it got you, which in likelihood is more of the same. So a simple way to choose the higher is to not choose in fear, and then to begin to move to a level of reception to what might exist beyond that.
Thank you. Let's go to claims, and I don't know if we want to
Mm-hmm.
go to claiming the dominion or claiming the claim "I have come, I have come, I have come."
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
what can you tell us?
Well, the claim "I have come, I have come, I have come" is the claim of the upper room. And what they've, in the prior books, there have been attunements. And one of those attunements was, I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. I am free. I am free. I am free. My understanding of the claim "I have come" is that it's the chord that is struck when all of those notes are played at once.
Yeah.
And then that is the divine self in expression. The divine self in expression knows who it is, knows what it is, knows how it serves, which is how it expresses, and is free. The claim "I am free" seems to be the transposition to what they call the upper room. So the guides say when you claim "I have come, I have come, I have come," you're actually inducing a process of alchemy. And the claim then is that the divine self, or the monad, or the Christ within, or whatever you want to call it, that divine spark that fires within you, begins to then overtake and claim or reclaim every aspect of self that has been in denial of it. And that's the process of acclimation to the higher court.
Thank you. If
Mhm.
it's interesting. So many themes keep coming back up recently, and there's one in the New Age movement or in people in the spiritual world in general, which is
Mhm.
I can't move ahead because of some karma or I have or some past experience which is creating karma that's not allowing me in the upper room. What is your take on karma or their take on karma and being able to deconstruct to move ahead?
Well, I mean, they say that karma is just simply cause and effect, and an opportunity to learn. It's not punishment, and that's a reframing that needs to happen. So anything that we're encountering that is an obstacle in our path becomes the opportunity to learn. And I think sometimes, and I could be wrong, that it's this sort of Western idea that we should get what we want when we want it, and I should be there already. And if something's in my way, it sure better get out of the way so I can be my realized wonderful self, as opposed to understanding that these are the things that we came to learn through and are, in fact, our teachers. So I've heard the guides say, although I hear we're always responsible to our creations. Kind of, if you broke it, you pay for it. It's that kind of a thing. But I also have heard, and I haven't heard a lot about it, it may be in the new book and I'm forgetting it, but the idea that karma as we understand it is somewhat altered in the upper room because we're no longer making choices to confirm the old. We're beginning to choose in a higher accord. So we get a higher out picturing. I know that the things that have challenged me the most in my life, many of them are gone, which is amazing to me. Some things that I thought would always cause me pain or shame or grief, some of them are in presence, some of them still stick around. And I understand that those things that still stick around are things I'm still working with. And if I tune into somebody and I become them, I can feel them.
Yeah.
And if I feel like I want to jump out the window when I tune into them, it's because I know what that feeling is like. It's in my record and I can understand it, so I can have the compassion for it. I can recognize it. I can't recognize it if it's an abstract or intellectual idea. So I kind of am of the school that I think that everything that we undergo, and much of it may suck, I would have chosen a very different childhood for myself if I could choose one. But the childhood I got produced the man that I am and am still becoming. And I'm grateful for who I am and who I'm becoming now. But it's at the cost of some of the pain or the scars. It's all supposed to be lovely and pretty all the time is something that I just can't confirm. It's not been my experience. The guides have said, well, there are pills for that if that's what you want, if you want 24/7 comfort. But I do think that the things that we encounter, I can't tell you how many people I read for who say, well, my marriage is standing in the way of my spiritual growth. My husband or my wife doesn't confirm my path. And I think, well, that doesn't need to stand in the way of your spiritual. I mean, if the marriage is not working for you, by all means, you have free will and you can leave the marriage. But to blame somebody else on your lack of progress doesn't make great sense to me. It's like people that say, oh, my job needs to be spiritual. I mean, you and I are in a position right now where our work has to do with our spiritual lives. But when I was teaching college at NYU, which I did for 25 years, that was my spiritual training ground. I loved every minute of it. I learned through that. In every faculty meeting that I had to suffer through, I still learned. Yeah. You understand? So your spiritual life is your life. It's your sex life. It's your professional life. It's your emotional life. It's all part of the same school that we're in. And this is school.
Thank you. I want to say, like, period, period, period. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This concept, it's something that I've been channeling recently. This concept that I should have this now, or I look at my watch, I should have this by now. I'm being told that this concept implies a separateness which is not real. It implies that there is a God or divine out there, and that we make the divine, the commands out to the divine outside of ourselves.
I would agree. Yeah. I don't always understand it, but I hear that what we're doing in those claims is we're affirming our lack.
Bingo.
We're confirming that we don't have it, and then that's the problem. But then it's impossible for me to say, well, I have a wonderful relationship, with a partner when in fact I don't.
Yeah.
But what I can do is say, you know what, I'm really willing and ready to have this, and know that that is true. And then be available to it, and then maybe do the footwork, if that's required. If you go to the dance, sometimes you got to ask somebody to dance,
The two-step dance right there. Put it out there,
Yep.
Ask. On that note, a few really fun questions, and I really want to help people get to the upper room or do what we can here today. In the book, there's some interesting Q&A from your audience. And so I'm wondering what more you can share on who are the guides, where do they come from, how long have they existed, where did their teachings come from?
I don't know that. I mean, I don't even know if I want to ask them on this. Now we will answer. They're saying we will answer. We've been here before you know time. We've been here before you know time. We will be here beyond time. We'll be here beyond time. We are teachers. Yes, we are teachers. Yes, we're also consciousness. But we are also consciousness, the Christ manifest. The Christ manifest in all things is our realization, is our realization. And by Christ we mean, and by Christ we mean the participation of the divine, the participation of the divine as manifest or realized in form or realized in form. The announcement we make by name is actually secondary to our intent. Our intent is to illumine. Our intent is to illumine and to instruct and to show the way home and to show the way home for those who are willing to travel, for those who are willing to travel, period. And they're saying period.
Beautiful. Thank you. One last question, kind of this vein, which is that they mention that there have been iterations of humanity. They mentioned Babylon. They mentioned Atlantis. Is this something humanity has faced time and time again and wasn't able to choose, and now we finally are?
You're assuming that there was no choice. You're assuming that there was no choice and no learning through prior cataclysm. Cataclysm each time it befalls humanity. Cataclysm each time it befalls humanity is great opportunity, and humanity itself is given an option to ascend to a new level, So indeed it has happened, it's happening now. So indeed it has happened, it is happening now. It is happening now, the realization of humanity in its true nature. The realization of humanity in its true nature has been denied for so long on this plane, divine. It's considered to be heretical. It is considered to be heretical, but this is the new teaching. But this is the new teaching, and the time has come to receive it, and the time has come to receive it, period. And they're saying period.
Thank you. So let's help people get to the upper room. Where
All
do
right.
we begin to allow our hands to open, let go of the old, and start moving up?
They're saying this: I know who I am in truth.
Mm-hmm.
I know what I am in truth. I know how I serve in truth. Speaking of these words, the speaking of these words will support you in alignment, will support you in an alignment to the higher octave of expression, to the higher octave of expression that is already present as you, that is already present as you. In truth means you are supported. You are supported by what is always true, by what is always true, which is your divine nature, which is your divine nature. I know who I am in truth. I know who I am in truth. I know what in truth. I know what I am in truth. I know I serve truth. I know how I serve in truth, which is how you express fully, which is how you express fully as the monad or divine self in form and expression, in form and expression. The claim I am free, I'm free, I'm free. The claim I am free, I am free, I am free. When invoked, will support you in releasing tethers, will support you in releasing the tethers in historical data that have bound you to an idea of self, that have bound you to an idea of self known through separation. And the claim comes. Then the claim comes, I am in the upper room. I am in the upper room. You may say it with us. You may say it with us. I am in the upper room. I am in the upper room. The Christ itself, or the monad or the divine self, or the monad or the divine self, already is in alignment here, already is in alignment here. It is its expression, and it is its expression, this announcement of expression that will support you, And the claim of this is, I have come. And the claim of this is, I have come. I have aligned. I have chosen to reincarnate. I have chosen to reincarnate or incarnate at this level of tone, This is the beginning of the process. This is the beginning of the process of acceleration and reknowing that is available to you, as you claim it, period. And they're saying period.
Thank you. A couple key points I want to ask about here, which is already is in alignment here. What do they mean by that?
Well, you see, we're always sort of striving to be our spiritual selves, but they say the spiritual self or the true self, and the true self, it's a name they use. It's not to discredit the personality structure, which has its place. But the truth of who you are, exists beyond your ethnicity, your gender, your work history, what your parents did, what your religion is, how you vote, all that stuff. The true self is the eternal self. And they say the eternal self is already in alignment to its true nature, but has been disavowed by the personality construct with all of the support of the world it could possibly want. You're told that you're not allowed to be of God or an expression of God in realization. So the upper room is where this realization can occur, because it is not a place where fear is sort of making all the choices for you. It's the octave above that. That's the simplest way I can explain it for now.
Thank you. And I like that. And part of how I see this is one aspect of who we are, this illusory aspect, flower on the bush, doesn't remember that we are already the whole bush. But we are
exactly
already
right.
the whole bush, and we couldn't be other, no matter how much we are affirmed by the news or by anything in this world that we are not.
Exactly right.
There's a key term that the guides used that's really cool to me. They said acceleration and reknowing. That word acceleration seems to describe how we feel at this time. What is meant by that?
or acceleration is the rapidity of the tone of the vibration. The entire world is being shifted. The entire world is being shifted. You have to acclimate, and you're having to acclimate to this vibration, the forms you've taken, and the forms you have taken, and in the realities you have known at this level of vibration. At this level of vibration, there are structures that may not hold. There are structures that may not hold. All things that have their basis in fear, all things that have their basis in fear, be it economic control, be it economic control, political rule, anything you can think of, that actually has its basis, in what we call an element, and what we would call the denial of the divine will be reckoned with, because it cannot align, to the level of tone or vibration, is available to you now, that is available to you now. We're making things bad or wrong. We are not making these things bad or wrong. We are simply saying they will not support. We are simply saying they will not be supported. They will not be supported at this level, because they cannot reclaim their inherent divinity without transformation. The opportunity for all of you is to re-see your world in its potential, how you perceive the world from the upper room. From the upper room will alter the manifest world, in ways you don't even imagine yet. What you damn damns you back. What you damn damns you back. What you bless blesses you in return, and the realization of the presence of the divine upon what has been denied, it will actually reclaim anything, in a higher order, period. In the same period.
Thank you. Shifting gears to kind of your personal journey, if you don't mind, Paul, for a minute.
Sure.
In this book, there's a lot of butting heads without butting heads. You don't even give it a chance to butt heads. And they're saying, Paul is wanting to. What are the difficult questions either you've been asking the guys lately or you've been struggling with?
I don't know. I mean, they've just begun their 10th book, and they did it during a live stream when I wasn't expecting it, like a week ago. And they did, a good 30 pages in 5 sessions. And I wasn't interrupting much, but they were coming through with such force and such directness that they didn't leave me too much room. But every time they say something that is too far out for me, or doesn't seem to be reflective of my own experience, I am not wandering around ascended in the upper room. I'm doing pretty well, I think, these days, but that's not my alignment. But does that mean I believe it cannot be so? Actually, I believe it is so, because they've been so remarkably consistent in their teachings and so careful and loving with me through this process that I continue to show up for it. So I'm always challenged by anything that has to do with science, or when I start talking about matter and how matter works. I flunked science. I don't have a vocabulary for any of this, and I'm so grateful that they use musical terminology more than anything else, because that I can at least sort of wrap my mind around. But they actually don't use scientific terms intentionally, because they say the language of science is going to be outmoded in 50 years. How about we calling everything by different names as we continue to learn? So, that's my understanding. So there's no pressing question at the moment. I still think about my personal wants, but less so than I used to, because really I'm not wanting for very much right now. I'm just mostly trying to be grateful for, my life.
Yeah, thank you. And there's a term that comes up in the book, and that may be what you're describing right here, to become fluid.
Yeah. Yeah, they talk about, it's about moving into the flow. It's divine order, it's you become the conduit of this, and consequently you're participatory to all creation. That's how I understand it.
You say that the word language comes up a bunch, and when we're re-knowing things, what you damns you back. What we're really talking about is language puts us in a box. And so when you said, when we talk about using the language of science, we're putting ourselves in a box. What are they really
Yeah.
saying about language and elasticity at the moment?
Well, when something has been confirmed through language in its solid state, we forget, I think, that it was once something other and will be something other again. Do you understand this? The tree, and they've said this in their old books, the tree, the chair was once a tree, which was once a seed, and one day will be smoke and a fire, and then soot on the windowsill, and it's still the same thing. It's just being known in different forms. So, they work with language that I think is, somewhat rooted in a kind of Christian mysticism, but they say it's not a Christian teaching. It's not a religious teaching. And they say it's, really the basis of all true spiritual paths is what they're teaching. They're all the same, finally, at their essence, if I understand this. So they certainly are very careful in their word choices, although they're mostly limited by my vocabulary, although occasionally they'll use a word that I don't know, which is terrifying to me because I don't want to have to say it. Yeah. It happened in a workshop at Esalen. They used the word penumbra, which I didn't know what it meant, and I didn't think it was really a word, and I didn't want to say it. And they kept saying, we're saying a word, Paul is refusing to say it. And then finally, when the lecture was over, I said, penumbra, and everybody looked it up on their phones. It was the perfect word. It was the light that shines from behind the cloud. But, so language is important. But yes, we define and we create morality and meaning to what we see and how we give value to things. And then that becomes our point of exchange, socially, culturally, all those things.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to go there. Why not? May I ask the guides a question? Specifically, is there anything they want to share with me or with the audience?
They're saying they're pointing to you, so I'm going to go to you. I don't even want to say it. Michael, I'm going to say it. Michael needs to know that he's not a fraud. He is true. He's operating truth. He is operating in truth and has been, and the work he's doing now. And the work he is doing now will escalate him into an awareness, into a new awareness of what potential means, of what potential really means. Now understand potential. Now understand potential, true possibility, true possibility. This will be before you soon enough. This will be before you soon enough. Decide to not know for a while. Decide to not know for a while. That will be your great gift. That will be your great gift, to not know so you may learn, to not know so you may learn, so you may discover, so you may discover, and so you may gift the world, and so you may gift the world with the discoveries you come to, with the discoveries you come to, period. And they're saying period.
Wow. On the one hand, I want to ask more. On the other hand, I don't know what to ask. There is that decision in before me. I am in the middle of the same reinvention we all are. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned beforehand, I keep getting these dreams on this, steering and guiding me. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We are all in this place of to affirm the upper room means to let go of the known. Mm-hmm. Frankly,
that's the key. And these books were the Beyond the Known trilogy. I mean, that's what they've been saying. So, but it's there.
Would you mind doubling? And thank you so much. And I'm glad that you shared. And I'm really glad that you went there.
Okay.
There is such a powerful phrase in here that you said at the beginning that they talk about at the end that I think would kind of bring everything together today. Mm-hmm. God is, God is, God is.
Yeah. Well, as I said earlier, they say that the denial of the divine is the only real problem we're facing. And God is, God is, God is what will reclaim all things. It's the denial of the divine that stands in the way. Do you understand that? So God is, God is, God is, which I believe is an attunement. I'm actually doing a little group this coming week, and I'm going to be working with it, publicly for the first time. They came through in the dictation. Most all of the attunements historically were done in classes where I got to feel it when they brought it through. But God is, God is, God is, I think, is the most potent thing that they brought through. And it's not an intellectual claim, it's the claim of realization. You're realizing the divine through that claim. You're not just sort of saying, well, it's blue, it's blue, it's blue, when it's orange. You're claiming the manifestation of the divine in form upon what you see through that claim.
It does feel like a note being played. It
Yeah.
feels like a definite note being played.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is.
Woohoo! Where can people go, Paul, to find out more, to find your work, to find your classes, to find your live events?
PaulSelig.com, PaulSelig.com. Right.
Thank you so much, Paul. This has been phenomenal. This is our most peaceful talk yet.
I think so. All right. Well, thank you for having me, Michael. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get the kingdom, and begin discovering your true freedom today, and shine bright. Woohoo! What a special interview with Paul. What a special interview with his guys. I'm blown away. I love the sense of peace that Paul has, the sense of peace that I felt today, the sense of peace I hope you experienced as well, because this is real. This going to the upper room, this vibrating at a higher frequency, this being at a higher level of attunement is real. So I recommend you watch this over and over and over again. Certainly get his work. Certainly also, I'm biased, but pick up the automatic writing experience, which is a co-creation channeled with the guides to help you connect with your own guides that are just waiting to speak with you, just waiting to guide you, just waiting for you to open your hand to help you find your purpose, your path, your direction, and your way to the upper room. You can get this, of course, at automaticwriting.com. You can get our whole video-based program, so you can begin doing this today. Each module guides you through step by step, helping you to hear your guides, helping you to find peace, helping you to manifest, helping you to grow, to certainly not feel alone and get guidance on your journey. That's at automaticwriting.com. Of course, you can get the book also at Amazon. You can get it at your local bookseller. You can get it anywhere. Please support the local guys as well. Bring your receipt back to automaticwriting.com for tons and tons of bonuses. You can also join us for our Manifestation Mastery Circle classes every Wednesday night. Channeled teachings, you can find that in InspireNationUniversity.com. We've got lots and lots of live events on YouTube. Check those out by clicking that subscribe button and clicking the bell icon to be notified of upcoming shows, premieres, and especially those live events every Sunday night. Here's where to go to check out our next amazing show. Love you guys so much. Shine bright. Woohoo! Big thumbs up if you like this. Leave your comments. Love you guys so much. Keep on shining bright and get your copy of Awe.